The Longbox Crusade presents
Action Film Face-Off.
This episode, it's 1979 versus 2009.
Two films enter.
One film leaves.
2 men enter. 1 man leaves. 2 men enter. 1 man leaves. 2 men enter. 1 man leaves. 2 men enter. 1 man leaves.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits.
Welcome back to Action Film Face-Off. This is a show where 2 random years are selected. My brother brings an action film from one of the random years. I bring one from the other random year. Those 2 films do battle using a variety of criteria. Champion is crowned by the end of the episode. I'm Jared Albrecht, the Death Probe. My co-host is my brother Jason, the Weasel Skull. We're both combat veterans who take our action seriously, but not too seriously. We're having fun tonight. We got fun movies to talk about tonight. Jason, this night I have a half-blind fire. I'd never seen Firepower. I'd seen Black Dynamite. What about you?
Exactly the same. Firepower, first time. Black Dynamite, repeat.
All right. Well, over to you.
Yes, indeed. We're going to score each of today's films on a scale of 1 to 10 in 5 categories. Those categories are story, overall spectacle, best action scene, the hero, and the villain. We don't do it in that order, and we do this on purpose to make sure you're still paying attention. However, there always is a deduction round at the end of the game where up to 10 points can be subtracted from the film's total for whatever we determine is the low point of the movie. Spoiler alert, one of these films is going to get deducted.
Ooh, something to look forward to.
Keep you on the seat of your seat.
Thank you, Jason. Today we are joined by a sniper, and as you may know, the sniper has 1 point to give in each category, so sniper can sway the scoring by a total of 5 points. Let's meet our sniper for this episode. He's a return guest and a fan favorite around the Longbox Crusade headquarters. It is Delvin the Dark Web Williams. Welcome back to Action Film Face-Off, Delvin.
I hope I'm at least a fan favorite around like LBC headquarters. Otherwise, it'll make for some awkward podcasts, right?
Those Christmas parties would get real awkward.
Hi, Delvin. Good to see you.
He's back again.
It's good to be here, man. Great to be back on another Action Film Face-Off. It feels like it's been a minute, so I'm glad to be back.
Because he's repeat, I want to say offender, but it feels like we're punishing him by putting him on the show. He's a repeat guest. Most people get the what are your 3 favorite action films. I had to sharpen the point on that question for Delvin. Delvin, who are your 3 favorite action stars? Like, you see an action movie with them in it, you're like, yeah, why not?
Ooh. Man, movies are so weird now, right? People don't go to the movies, even though it's like random weird.
And the era of the big action star is kind of gone. Mm-hmm. Your typical 80s action star, it's not like it was. So I don't know. You can go, you have the whole breadth of Hollywood's history to choose from.
I agree. Like it's not like it was, but it kind of is like it was in the sense that like nowadays, right? People will say, bro, you look real jacked for this role or whatever. Like, what'd you do? And it's like, oh yeah, I just did a steady diet, and then I just spent like 3 months straight meditating by a stream. It's like steroids. Steroids. Like, come on. Like, at least in the 80s, we knew. Like, because those bros were jacked. These bros are equally as jacked. They just lie about it. Anyway.
Grapefruit, baby. It's all grapefruit.
Nowadays, I can say Denzel Washington. I will watch like any movie like action with Denzel Washington. I just saw a couple months ago Gladiator 2. Like he did some action roles in that, so that was very good. It's always fun watching The Rock. I've seen The Rock in quite a few of his movies, and he does a fantastic job. And since I'll go with one that we've covered on Action Film Face-Off, like I don't necessarily like run out to see him, but if Tom Cruise is in a movie, that bro's crazy. So I will watch that.
Something's going to happen.
And something like at some point, he's going to do something that I have never seen a human do before or that I couldn't do. Like I don't know, sprint for 5 minutes straight. Like,
he loves to sprint.
right? It's like, how are you not dead? I would be dead.
Those are good choices, man. Good, solid choices. And to you or the listeners, if you think Denzel action movies, man, all three of those Equalizer films are fantastic. Highly recommend. All right. Before our two films enter the Videodome arena, we are thrilled to kick off this episode with special shout outs to Crusaders Club members. These are the fine folks who have joined our crusade. They enjoy early access to special long box episodes. They vote on show content. They get automatically entered into our raffles. So much more. Here are the fine folks that are reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Alan W. Wright.
And Helica Wolf. Ow.
Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Billy D.
Bradley Dello.
Braxton Underwood.
Terry.
Clinton Robinson.
Captain Entropy.
Clark Westfield.
Dave Collins.
Battle Wagon.
Eric Hodges.
Eric Porter.
Ezra Gallo.
Gary V.
Gene Hendricks.
George Meal.
Gerald Green.
Heinz K.
Jason Keene.
Jason Lady.
Jeff Polier.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Jim Meal.
Joe Man Conan.
Joe Thomas.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Captivating Kathy Bright, the MVP.
Matt and Lissy Passo.
Mark Ross.
Maxwell Traver.
Michael Minton.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devons.
Paul Hicks.
Rick of Jeff and Rick Resent.
Easter Day. All my troubles seem so far away. Now I gotta thank Ronald Easter Day. Yes, I thank Ronald Easter Day.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto Cop.
If we missed anyone on the list, we apologize. Of course, we record these well in advance of release, so if you're a recent edition, we'll add you soon. But no worries, if we missed you, you can send an email to contact@longboxcrusade.com and send a curse-filled email to Pat, and he will read it, and then he'll let us know that we missed you. And
It'll edit out the curses.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, you might be asking yourself, how do I get on the Crusaders Club thing? It's pretty easy. Go to patreon.com/longboxcrusade for as little as 4 quarters, 10 dimes, or 20 nickels, or maybe even 100 pennies a month. You'll get access to the amazing world of the Crusaders Club. Come check it out. We would greatly appreciate it.
All right. Well, it's time for the ads to stop and the panties to drop. That's not just ego. That's just how we go. Now let's get back to the combat and learn a bit about the film Gladiators about to battle for your pleasure.
This episode, I was assigned the year of 1979, and I selected Firepower. What year did the randomizer select for you, Jason?
Well, I got 2009, and so I had to put into our Videodome arena Black Dynamite.
We've got a fine matchup for this one, folks. Now, it's important to point out this isn't Jared versus Jason. We each had to select from our assigned year. I might like his film better than mine, or vice versa. This is all about us discussing some beloved action films and coming to a consensus on which one is this episode's champion. Quick around the room where we saw it, as it happens more and more these days as I grow my Plex library. I had them both on Plex. What about you, Jason?
Well, it turned out that 1979's Firepower was on Roku. So if you're a Roku subscriber, you can watch that one for free. And then I paid a few bucks, I think about $4 to watch Black Dynamite on Apple streaming, mostly because I was too lazy. I've got the DVD somewhere, but I was too lazy to look around and try to find it.
I was like, I think I do have the Blu-ray later somewhere.
I was too lazy to get off the couch.
I can tell folks too at home that I did a little research because Delvin was trying to use Plex for Black Dynamite and it was shenanigans. And so I was checking on Firepower as well. You can also watch Firepower for free on YouTube. It's free with ads. Delvin, how did you watch these features?
I watched Black Dynamite via Amazon Prime, much like Jason did. And I watched Firepower via Batman Prime.
Got you. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. Well, this is your spoiler warning. We're about to get into both these films and talk all about them. I feel like even if I spoiled Firepower's plot, it'd still be just as confused. But
I need you to spoil it some more. Let's just do it.
This is your spoiler warning. We're going to play the little musical interlude, and when we come back, spoilers are on the table. So if you need to pause here and you want to watch Firepower or Black Dynamite, I would recommend both. I hope you have a great time with them. I'll see you at the other end of this break. Okay, guys, I'm going to jump in with some quick info on 1979's Firepower.
The richest and most powerful man in the world. No one knows what he looks like, where he is, or why he's killing people. The only clues to his identity are a few personal habits, like his drugs, his fondness for sadistic games, and his appetite for magnificent women. It would take a miracle to capture him. We're back. A miracle called Jerry Fennon.
Jerry Fennon. He's retired now. Gardening or something.
Unretire him.
Only Hyman can do that.
So, ask Hyman.
I don't want to abuse this thing we have. It's a contract. The fee, $1 million. Inflation.
Anyone ever tell you what's wrong, Miss Steve? I'm just redistributing the wealth, man. What brought you back?
Got a gig. Behind me? Yeah. Could use some help. Money stick.
Hey, I don't kill people.
It's a grab. Firepower. Here, let me help you with that.
When I take my earrings off, I go to bed.
I think she's quite a threat.
I think she's quite magnificent.
The power of desire. The power of courage. The power of force. Crime. Evil. Protection. Law. Firepower. The U.S. government doesn't know where he is.
We were closing in, but he left the States.
The Mafia wants him.
I'm beginning to think Stegner may not be on the island.
And no one has what it takes to find him.
I'll get Stegner for you.
Firepower.
Cast and crew is as follows. It stars James Coburn, Sophia Loren, and O.J. Simpson. It is directed by Michael Winner. Synopsis goes a little something like this. Pay attention, Jason. This might help you.
Me too. Hold on.
There's a mysterious, reclusive, rich dude named Carl Stegner, and the U.S. government wants to prosecute him. But he's in a non-extradition country, maybe. The dude is, like, impossible to find. So the government dudes call in a mob dude and promise him immunity if the mob dude can bring in Stegman. The mob dude knows just who to call, a talented mercenary named Jerry Fannin. Jerry teams up with his buddy Catlett, and they complete the impossible mission. And somehow the producers managed to way overcomplicate that to include a femme fatale, a twin, an imposter, a dead husband, an enraged brother-in-law, and some other mob guys. It's a whole thing. Here's your trivia. And this is funny. The first one's funny because when I put on X, posted about this and I was watching it, someone said, oh, Michael Winner loves to make Charles Bronson films. I'm surprised Charles Bronson's not in it. Trivia item number 1. Charles Bronson was considered for the lead role of Jerry Fannin. Rumors had it that Bronson turned the movie down because the producers refused to write in a role for his wife, Jill Ireland. She's in a lot of his movies from this era, by the way. And now we know why. With much of the pre-production crew already on location in the Caribbean, Sir Lou Grade wanted to shut down the production when Brosnan pulled out. Realizing how much money they'd already sunk into the movie, though, and they hadn't really properly secured their actors or actresses, Grade saved face by moving ahead and calling in James Coburn to replace Bronson. Item number 2. The movie was originally written as a Dirty Harry sequel. The story idea was conceived by the writer-director John Milius, and Michael Hastings contributed to the script as well. But then it just kind of, you know how movie scripts will do that. They'll morph into something else. And number 3, writer, producer, and director Michael Winner, sorry for me to get this without laughing, says in his biography that O.J. Simpson remained a close friend of his over the years, despite the fact that Simpson was accused of double murder, in which Winner was certain he was guilty.
Well, it's like Chris Rock said in a sketch, it's like, I don't condone what
I understand.
I just understand it.
So, yeah, it's a really good friend that's like, this guy's been my buddy for years. I love him to death. He probably kills people. Like, okay, you could have left the last part out, man. Anyway, over to Jason.
All right. Thank you, Jared. Now I will give the good folks a rundown on 2009's Black Dynamite.
Oh, you suckers gather round. There's a brand new movie coming to town. So get on up and check the scene of the smoothest, baddest mother to ever hit the big screen. Main man, Black Dynamite. He's super cool and he know kung fu. Drives a $5,000 car and wears a $100 suit.
You're so righteous.
This is also true. And when it comes to the ladies, he's out of sight.
Let me guess. You one of these brothers think you can get by on a wink and a smile, huh? What about the smile?
I am smiling.
Black Dynamite.
Never in the history of the game has there been such devastation.
The CIA needs Black Dynamite now more than ever.
We need you, Black Dynamite, now more than ever. I thought I told you hunkies from the CIA that Black Dynamite was out of the game.
And he's better than Shaft, Superfly, and the Mac put together. But when the mob kills his brother,
Your death will not go unavenged.
and put the dope on the street,
It's my nephew Bucky. He OD'd.
he's back in the game and he's playing for keeps.
I am declaring war on anybody who sells drugs in our community.
But Black Dynamite, I sell drugs to the community.
He killed my best dealer. I want him dead now.
So if you crave satisfaction, then dig this action. Guaranteed to put your ass in traction. Black, stack, attack, and match. Backtrack, slapjack, boot black, flashback, ramsack, jam pack, and still coming back.
See where I'm coming from, you jive mother.
Black Dynamite, starring all-star running back Ferrante Jones, fashion model Tambula Takar, William T. Michelson, Ronnie Sinatra, Little Tiny Tigs, Junebug, Bo Willie Peters, and me, that bad bullhorn. Black Dynamite, filled with cinemaphonic quadro vision, rated R.
It starred Michael Jai White, Nicole Arie Parker, Philip Morris, and everyone else you could kind of think of from this era. It was directed by Scott Sanders. Synopsis goes a little something like this. When Black Dynamite's brother is gunned down under mysterious circumstances, the streetwise guardian of the inner city takes on all comers to get revenge. Using his charm, martial art skills, nunchucks, and a literal license to kill, BD takes on rival gangs, the CIA, the evil Dr. Wu, and Tricky Dick to uncover the most dastardly plot of all and to avenge his little brother. So the trivia, first one, I'm just going to say, so hopefully you all watched it. It'll make sense to you. It was a baby pacifier.
That makes it worse.
I was gonna make like some pacifier noises, but no, I'm not going to.
Yeah, probably not. Okay, trivia number 2. The Anaconda malt liquor plot was inspired by an actual urban myth that Church's Fried Chicken was poisoning its food to kill black people. That was.
I should be dead by now. Then
I was gonna say
I've eaten so much Church's.
Why was I not let in on this plot?
I know, right? Jiminy Christmas. I
would have thought I would have been given a heads up.
Plus, Church's Chicken was founded in San Antonio. There are 8 black people in San Antonio.
Well, you live in North Carolina now.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, 7. Sorry. Yeah. Bad math. My bad.
And finally, the phrase that the dying child says in the Vietnam flashback scene was Vietnamese for "you're full of shit." Oh, and now that we have the basics on today's contestants.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Test your might.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Fight.
It's a street fight.
All right, folks, let's get into it. Before we do that, let's talk about Match Game. We have 2 films, 5 categories. Jason's not seen my scores. I've not seen his. We could match up to 10 times. So now is the time to play the game within the game. How many out of 10 times do you think Jason and I are going to match? It's up to you out there, folks at home. Delvin, you want to guess since you're live? How many matches for me and Jason? Take a guess.
I don't think it's going to be many. I'm going to guess 3.
Ooh, low. All right. Well, speaking of scores, let's get your barometer set. If we scored a 5, that means it's fine. It's average. You know, you're home on a rainy Sunday back in the 80s. It's a made-for-TV movie, and it's decent. That's a 5. All right, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good film. 4, 3, 2, 1. Things to work on. With all that out of the way, let's get into round 1.
Is that your best?
Round 1 is the story. How engaging or original is your story? We start... Let's just get the tough one out of the way. We start with Firepower, and Delvin gets to lead the thoughts on the story of Firepower. Good luck, Delvin.
Thank you, Jared. that silence, like that Jared hopefully leaves in with the editing, was intentional silence. I honestly can't call it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And you know what? Here's what I'll say. Jared is going to mention, and I'll spoil it, that he watched it twice so he could get it. Now, I didn't. I watched it once, and then I was leaving work, and I came home. I was like, I got to watch this movie. And so I was sitting down, you know, my head's sitting there, maybe half thinking about work, half thinking about maybe I can go to the gym or something if I get this movie done in time. And then I sat down and I'm, you know, looking for the movie to draw me in, and it didn't quite. So I'm saying that to say that, like, the story, it was convoluted enough that instead of drawing me in, or like, you know, the first movie I thought of was Inception. The thing that Inception did that I understood is that, like, they immediately started by describing a dream within a dream. And it was almost like they did it to say, did you get that? Because if you get that, keep watching. If you didn't get that, you might just want to stop here, go elsewhere. Like, so like I needed that draw-in point, and I didn't quite get it on this, not murder mystery on this. I needed you to explain the plot to me. And if you had to explain the plot to me, then I didn't quite get the story. So that's a good place to stop.
Yeah. I will use one word and say overcomplicated, and then I'll pass it to Jason.
I'll take it a step further. Remember back when we did Blind Fury and we were looking at the movie posters for Blind Fury, and it made it look like it was kind of like this buddy kid comedy.
Yeah, it had a real light air about it. Yeah,
and it was like, man, it was good. It was good, but the movie poster and how they promoted it did not set you up for what the expectations you needed to have coming into this movie. And I was like, Delvin, because Jared, he sent me the picture of the poster via text, and he was like, look at this poster. And it looks like one of those 1970s,
so good.
You know, Force 10 from Navarone type action posters. So in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, I'm gonna pop out, you know, 6-pack and just kind of lean back and just let this movie wash over me. And I start watching it within like, I'm about 5 minutes in. I was like, I put this beer back in the fridge because I got to pay attention. You know, got to take notes, and I got like one of those node diagrams up on my wall trying to follow this
yarns thing. And push pins.
So all that to say, it wasn't a bad story. It was a good film. It just wasn't what it was advertised. So I kind of came in expecting one thing, getting another. You know, once I accepted it and like, okay, I got to pay attention to this thing, I got most of it. It was well written, well directed, maybe not well paced, but overall decent.
Yeah, I agree with you on your point about pacing. It's not often that I kind of wish a movie was a little longer. I feel like they could have let some stuff breathe or trimmed down some of the stuff in the front. I don't know. There's just an awful lot of levels that maybe didn't need to be there. But yeah, I also liked it too, and we'll score it here in a minute. But first, we need to go to 2009 to Black Dynamite and talk about the story of Black Dynamite. And Delvin gets to go first.
So I can pause a lot here too, because by the time that Black Dynamite was descending upon the White House lawn, taking out presumably the Secret Service, knocking out the First Lady, and getting into a knockdown drag out with Tricky Dick, I was like, this story is ridiculous. It is all over the place. And see, to me, the difference is they knew it was ridiculous. It was supposed to be ridiculous. That's a good part of a humorous story if you know it's a joke, they know it's a joke, and they take it as a joke. At no point did they ever take the plot of this story seriously. That is what made it such a beautiful story, where it's like, yep, it sort of took the blaxploitation, put it on its ear, threw a ton of tropes and great comedy, not even good comedy, great comedy in it and action to somehow make a ridiculously flawed, hilarious, funny film.
I agree wholeheartedly. Jason.
Oh man, I think Delvin just nailed it. It's all about the tropes that they took from all these blaxploitation films, some of which we've covered here. Like there are definitely some homages to Three the Hard Way.
Yes.
Enter the Dragon with the island and everything. There was definitely that type of feel. So they took their love of these films and made this kind of beautiful tapestry. And the ridiculousness is the point. All along the way, there are hundreds of Easter eggs in this thing, probably more. There are probably some I didn't even get that other harder core fans of martial arts movies and blaxploitation films will probably find along the way. It's borderline genius, I think. I mean, it blends the action, the physical action, the comedy, and just nails it in just about every scene. I loved it.
Same here. All right, let's score them. Going back to Power in 1979. Jason, there's overcomplication, but we both still liked it, enjoyed it. So where are you going to land on that story?
You know, the story I felt deserves a 7. It's well written. I mean, it makes sense. It's logical. It kind of comes in that third act. It kind of breaks down into more of an action film. But up to that point, there's a lot of good twists and turns, and it's like a little chess game there that really shows James Coburn's character and how he's just at a higher level of thinking, and he's going up against a villain that's also very, very clever. So add all the elements of a good story, and I think well put together. Just falsely advertised, and I think you know where my deduction point's going to come here at the end of the film.
That's funny. I have a note on mine as well that it's going to get real interesting. Batch game. I also have it at a 7. I felt like it had some James Bond DNA in it to some extent with the espionage parts and whatnot, but yeah, even though it was a bit complicated, and I think watching it twice helped. I think I would have put it at a 6 the first time, and then watching the second time and better understanding the big picture helped me get it to a 7. Black Dynamite, Jason.
Well, when I say it's near genius, I mean, I'm talking elite level of storytelling. I'm going to give this thing an 8. It's in the elite level. It's in the 8 to 10 range. You know, is it like Terminator 2 or some of the other Aliens or some of the other ones we've covered here? No, not quite there. But for what it is, man, it is very masterful at its craft. 8 from me.
I'm very close with you on that one. I gave it a 7. It is a borderline stupid, nonsensical story, which doesn't help. But as we talked about, that's the point. And so it does help. So it's kind of all over the map. But in the end, I really enjoyed it. So I'm very close with you. I gave it a 7. And we go to our sniper. Delvin, you have 1 point to give. I could probably guess, but I want you to have fun with this.
I don't know what you're going to guess, but you're probably going to be wrong because I'm going to give my sniper bullet to Black Dynamite. I know you were expecting that I was going to give it to Firepower, but,
Absolutely.
you know, switched it on you, Jared.
Absolutely. Zig and zag. They're both convoluted, but one of them's convoluted on purpose. So.
I couldn't have said it any better.
There you go. And that's the end of round 1.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
All right, I'll pick it up from here and go into round 2 where we're going to talk about the hero. And I'll let Delvin kick us off and talk to us about James Coburn, his character OJ, that ensemble of heroes. I still don't know Sophia Loren with she was a good guy, bang. I don't know.
She switches sides too often. He literally told her that.
Exactly.
A woman. She was a woman. So we got.
Yeah, she pulled that triple switch at the end, and I'm like, wait, what the what? What? With the carry the one? Okay. So anyway, like Coburn, Miranda watched the last half of this movie with me. Like, she knew who James Coburn was. I would not have been able to pick James Coburn out of a lineup, but Miranda, as we both know, is the more experienced movie watcher of the two of us. I thought his character was cool, and like they wanted you to think he was cool, and I think he pulled cool off. Like a lot of times, you know, just kind of the way he walked with a little bit of swagger. He always seemed to be the guy that was one step ahead of the game. When he wasn't ahead of the game, he was able to admit that he wasn't ahead of the game, but then try to figure out a way to get back on top. The one part of the movie that I really did appreciate is that at the end, when he kind of realized that he had been duped and that the main bad guy was like a double, then he's like, I'm not done with this. He goes back to the island and finishes his business. And I like that. I like that in my hero, to where it's like, no, there were some stones unturned there. Let me go back and turn those stones over and finish the job.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really cool too. It had a lot of feel to me of a little bit like John Wick, that guy that somehow managed to get out, gets pulled back in, and then has this code of ethics along the way. But I wonder, what do you think, Jared? Agree, disagree?
Agree wholeheartedly. You know, I've seen a few James Coburn films, and I like the guy. He just has a bit of charm about him, so I always enjoy it when I see him. And yeah, he's likable. He's fun to watch. I'd say, you know, he's at the level of Roger Moore in A View to a Kill, just to telegraph what I got coming up.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know, likable, fun to watch. Yeah. And like Delvin said, I think my favorite moment for him was when he was like, oh man, we've been duped, you know, and that's when he figured out that the guy who was Stegman's doctor was actually Stegman. And you could tell also on his list of things to do was like, okay, because I think he literally asked, like, now which one of these guys killed OJ? You know, whatever his name was, Claret or something like that. Like, because he was like, I gotta make a mental note of that. I gotta fix that guy while I'm there too. I was like, hell yeah, go get him. So yeah, I liked him.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's pass it back to Delvin while we talk about Michael J. White as Black Dynamite.
If I'm Michael J. White, there is no way that, like, I'm surprised he even did another. Well, no, it's Michael J. White. Michael J. White would, like, he'd go to he'd do an after school special if they gave it to him. And that's not disparaging the man by any means, because if he hears this, I don't want him coming to my house and kicking my butt. I'm saying that to say he's just a hardworking man. But, like, there is no way. It's like, I would want to do like 10 more Black Dynamite movies if I was him. They couldn't have cast that any more perfectly. They couldn't have. He absolutely owned the character Black Dynamite. This 70s blaxploitation, but he's a badass, but he's thoughtful, but he was an orphan, and he had to live up to his responsibilities, but he was a vet, but he came back to the CIA. It's so ridiculous, and he nails it. I mean, he pulls it off. There was one point, like early on in the movie, and I'll stop because I could talk about him all day, where like the very famous part of, you know, like he's giving that serious role in the boom mic showing. That was
him in the head.
Yeah, that was funny. When it hit him in the head and it made the boom mic sound and he didn't even flinch, I died. I was on the couch dying. Like, perfect humor, perfect, and he didn't even budge.
Well, I was just going to agree with you. That was one of my favorite moments too, and I was like, that is difficult acting because he's going through his lines, he's doing the scene, he's ignoring this thing on his head, and then at one point he's like giving it, and his eyes start like glancing up at it. That is good acting, man. Well done.
It was fantastic. And it's worth mentioning as well. I mean, because I wouldn't blame the man. If I looked like he did, I'd walk around shirtless too. oh boy, was jacked for this movie. Like
all grapefruit, Delvin. Grapefruit.
all grapefruit, right? You know, like grapefruit. It's particularly the peels, Jerry. You rub the peels on your skin after. So anyway, he looked great, and he could not have been more perfect for this role.
Yeah, that was a lot of meditation he did to get in that shape. All right, Jared, you take it from here. What haven't we covered?
We covered everything. I'm just going to take this opportunity to mention one of my favorite Black Dynamite acting moments. It doesn't get enough love. It's when his mom, sister, his aunt just starts berating him at the funeral. The look on his face is perfect. Like, I got to hear this again. He's just like,
and she was so over the top with it. Like,
if your mother was alive, she'd roll over in her grave. Like, what doesn't even make sense?
She only told him about 68 different ways in 3 minutes what a failure he was for letting his brother die. And he was just like, I just could have chewed glass.
His brother had to get back to the streets where he is from.
Whence he is from.
I can quote the movie all day. It's so quotable. Black Dynamite is a character. Delvin hit on the head, man. There should be sequels. Jason, you and I have talked about this sort of behind the scenes, and maybe we've even mentioned it on the podcast for like when Blood and Bone was on. Like, why he is not a bigger action star, I will never know. Extremely talented, charismatic. I don't know why he kind of ends up in a lot of these under the radar projects that are really good. Blood and Bone is outstanding. This is outstanding. I don't get it, but he's going to get a good score.
His physicality, his acting ability, man. Well, let's just score it. Let's just say we'll leave that as one of life's little mysteries, I suppose. So, Jared, let's take us back to firepower. What are you giving James Coburn, O.J. Simpson, and crew for some firepower?
I'm giving him a 7. Like I said, I alluded to the Roger Moore and A View to a Kill standard, and I thought, yeah, he's as good as that. I like it. I
look to be about the same age.
Yeah, probably. And I don't know where else I would fit this in tonight's discussion, but I also love the fact that he played his own doppelganger to like throw the guys off the scent, which happened in 2 scenes. I mean, it helped him a little bit because people thought he left, so it gave him a little bit of wiggle room. But like, that's an awful lot of effort to play 2 roles to not get a ton of mileage out of it. I thought that was weird. But anyway, 7.
Miranda, like watching the movie, said he's always just looked old. James Coburn.
Yeah, even when he was young, he looked old. Like, I think the oldest movie I've seen him in, he might have done something older, but like he's in the original Magnificent Seven. He looks exactly the same. And then this was 79. Then he's in Hudson Hawk in like 1990.
That's where I remembered him.
And he looks exactly the same. I'm like, what's going on with this guy?
He's like reverse Tom Cruise.
Reverse Tom Cruise. He's always looked old.
Young. He's always looked old. Did I say match game? Yeah, I gave it a 7 as well. So we'll move it over to Black Dynamite. And what did you give Black Dynamite in the hero score?
Well, you know, we could say the 8, 9, 10 is sort of the high end, the elite level. He's going to get that because it's a very memorable character. Couldn't go 9 or 10 because it's not like he's James Bond or he's Indiana Jones, but Black Dynamite, solid 8. Easy 8.
Ooh, you know, I think I'm giving a little more love to Black Dynamite in this contest than you because I agree with what Delvin said. Like, you know, no, he's not James Bond, but I would love to see 9 or 10 more Black Dynamite movies. I would like a Bond franchise and a Black Dynamite franchise, and I want Michael J. White to be carbon frozen and then just let out to do, you know, like Winter Soldier was let out to do certain missions. He gets let out to do Black Dynamite like once every 3 years. So we can get like 10 films. So he gets a 9 from me. So
I wouldn't fight you. Yeah, it's a very good character.
Delvin, you get the final word, sir. Who's getting the sniper bullet?
So, I mean, in essence, Michael J. White got a 10 because I'm giving him the sniper bullet for absolute certain. Like, the man was just born to play that role. End of story.
All right. So that's going to wrap up the hero realm, and I'll pass it back to you, Jared.
Okay, let's get into the villainy.
Let the mayhem begin.
Round 3 is the villainy. You know, how cool and memorable is your villain? You might overcomplicate yourself into a lower score in this category. I'm not trying to sway anyone's decisions, but I will say this before I go to, I believe Jason gets the first word. The villainy, I feel like the villainy in both of these movies is a bit watered down because there's a lot of them in both of the movies. But we'll start with Firepower 79. We'll start with Jason.
I thought the villain was actually pretty doggone good.
He was.
I think it's the whole coterie around the villain that makes it. You know, the security guy, he was pretty sharp. The personal assistant guy, the skinny guy, he was, you know, kind of creepy, but also shrewd. You had the villain that's kind of pulling the strings. And I mean, the villain is so masterful that they have to call in James Coburn. The U.S. government's like, I give up. I can't go get him. We can't extradite him from this country. So you've got a very complicated villain. And then I'm going to throw in the curveball, Sophie Loren's character, who I think, you know, manipulates everybody all the way through the film. And then at the end, you see her sowing the seeds again with the next, with the next
100%.
guy.
Yep. She's a puppet master, I think.
So, you know, if I had to give a score to any one of them, you know, it'd be like, okay. But when you put them all together, that's a good group of villains right there. And I'll stop there.
You might have inspired me to pump my score up a little bit because you talking my language. We'll see what Dylan's got to say.
I agree with that. I agree with everything Jason said. Like the bad guy whose name I'm not going to remember. Please tell me the bad guy's name again. Please. Stegman was, I mean, he was the plot of the movie. They were supposed to go and get Stegman, and they were trying to figure out how to get him. And then they thought they got him, and they didn't got him. He was imposter, and so they had to go get him again. So, like, I mean, that alone, you know, my clunky exposition there, you know, shows that there was some cleverness that was going on, right? And so I give him that much credit. Like, he was, like, the bad guy was clever. He was hard to catch. And, you know, he eventually got caught. But, you know, it's a movie, and that's what usually happens at the end of the movie. That he had to be chased by some clever people who had to like go out of their way, and essentially he would have gotten away with it if Sophia Loren wouldn't have triple crossed him.
Quadruple?
Something crossed him. So given all that, the man was pretty clever.
Let's go to Black Dynamite, and there's a myriad of villainy there as well. And you know what? I'll just let Jason take it from there.
Well, kind of similar to what we talked about with the plot of Black Dynamite, the menagerie of villains in here is impressive. The folks that they get to play the villains, I think, are terrific. Whoever plays the CIA guy that double crosses him, you know, that's that trope. They get the right guy to play that, and the guy nails every scene. The evil Dr. Wu, fantastic. I loved it. And then, you know, at the very end, he's going toe-to-toe in a nunchuck fight with Richard Nixon. Come on, man.
Something you probably wouldn't have predicted when you started the film.
It was just bonkers, insane, crazy, and I loved it. My score will reflect as much.
Just as a side note, I'm declaring war on anyone who sells drugs in the community.
But Jared, I sell drugs in the community.
Chocolate giddy up. I can't not quote this movie. Delvin, get us back on track.
Pimpin' Captain Kangaroo.
Captain Kangaroo out of nowhere. And then I can imagine it's like, we're not going to pay you much, and we're going to have a beautiful black woman sitting on your laps, like, in. 100%. Yeah, 100% in. She could jump in my pouch any day, baby. Woo! Anyway, I was supposed to get us back on track. The bad guys weren't bad guys, but like they all served as vehicles to display the awesomeness of Black Dynamite. That was kind of the point of a lot of the blaxploitation movies, is that if you left the movie theater or nothing else, you know that the lead guy was a bad mofo that didn't take any jive from any turkeys. So none of the villains to me were bad, and I'm glad that you mentioned even Dr. Wooey, and then the henchmen and everything, and all of them actually had their moments. So it was like they were good moments, but they were all beats to really set up Black Dynamite. So a little bit downgraded in that, like, there wasn't really an ultimate bad guy per se, even though, he had to take out the president, as it were. But that was just the end of a long string of ridiculousness.
I also was a big fan of the first main bad guy he fought, which was Chicago Wind, when he's driving that red Porsche and he drives it off the cliff, and it's clearly not a red Porsche when it goes off the cliff and it blows up. And then later on in the movie, somebody else crashed the car and it was the same footage that they used for
Nice. I missed that. And that's good.
So all the tropes are there. So anyways, yeah, it's a fun menagerie. It doesn't make a ton of sense. There's another menagerie over at Firepower, which makes kind of more sense, but menageries either way. So we should go and score them. So heading over to 1979's Firepower 1 to 10. Jason, you actually talked me into raising my score 1 point. So I'm wondering if we're going to match. What'd you score it?
Like I hinted, they're 5s and 6s individually. But when you put them together and you mix in a little Sophie Loren, you get a 7. I think we're at that level. So 7 from me.
Match game number 3. I had 6 written down, but you made me think about it more. And I landed on one scene too, just one little scene that I thought was valuable to the film to add layers to the villains. And it was when the security guard was talking to like the financial consultant guy, the Weasley guy, the skinny dude. And he was like, I think you should go ahead and kill her or kill him or something like that. And the security, the ex-military guy was like, it's always guys like you that want to do that. And, because you don't have to pull the trigger. You don't know, and I was like, I can relate to this. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I heard that line and was like,
It was good. The little bit of scene really added a lot to the dynamic of everybody involved. And then you had the doctor, wink, wink, which was actually Stegman. It's an interesting little lineup. All right. Jason, Black Dynamite also has a menagerie of just ridiculous villains, but they're fun. Ridiculous but fun is probably a great phrase they should put on their movie poster and their box art. No, what did you give it on 1 to 10?
I had to give it an 8, and it's an 8 with love. I mean, the villains just augment the story so much in each of these scenes. And as soon as I saw Richard Nixon pull out a set of nunchucks, I was like, this is getting an 8. Full stop.
We are 3 for 3 match games on Firepower, and on Black Dynamite, we are 3 for 3 for me being 1 point behind you. I gave it a 7. I liked them. I thought they were all great. Even the fiendish Dr. Wu with his kung fu treachery. Delvin, bowl it.
Much to my chagrin, I'm giving it to Firepower. I feel as if I'm betraying Black Dynamite. I apologize, Black Dynamite. But the main
I got the culture.
The main reason that I'm doing it in this case is because the bad guy was the plot in Firepower. Sometimes the bad guy is the plot and it just doesn't deliver, right? Well, it did deliver in this case. Like, he was hard to catch, then he was caught, but he wasn't caught. It was an excellent double cross, and it took the hero having to redouble his efforts to come back to finish him, and it cost him, his best mate in O.J. Simpson, and I just, will take this time to mention, it was kind of weird to see O.J. running away from crime. You know what? Go back, take it back.
The juice was loose, my friend. All right, that is the end of round 3.
All right. Well, now we're getting into it because we're going to go into round 4, which is the spectacle. So in spectacle, we're going to talk about the action, the effects, both visual effects, sound effects, the music score, all that stuff. Put it in a blender, makes a great action movie. And we'll start off with Firepower, and I'll let Jared start this time and talk about the spectacle for Firepower.
It has a good amount of spectacle. Like I said, it kind of has a James Bond vibe because they go to a couple exotic locations, Curacao being one, which I had to look up where the heck that is, by the way. It's an island just north of South America, by the way. I think the Dutch owned it or something like that. I had to look it up. Where'd they go before that? It was also exotic.
I thought he was a Japanese director.
It's Kurosawa, Jason. Yeah, Delvin, it was Antigua. Is that where I think that's where they anyway.
Yeah, Antigua, yeah.
They had nice exotic locations. When the Firepower did get rolling, which was basically in the second half of the film, that was all good. We'll talk about action scenes later. I really dig the soundtrack to Firepower. There's a lot of cool kind of 70s funk vibe going. There's a guy, I don't know if you noticed this, in the opening credits who's like credited with saxophone solos. You know, all that and all that jazz. They had a guy for that, which I thought was funny.
Was it Kenny G? Was it Kenny G?
No, it was some Italian dude. But yeah, between the soundtrack and the cool locations and, you know, when the action stuff gets going, it is quite good. It's very solid. It's a good looking, good sounding flick.
Yeah, I kind of felt like you mentioned James Bond vibe. It did kind of have like maybe more of a Bond novel, like a Fleming novel vibe to it.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, it was. That's interesting
because the novels are usually very espionage-y with a big bang at the end, you know, and this kind of follows that formula. That's good.
Yeah, Delvin, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts were I was going to make a Kenny G joke and then like pronounce the letter G in Italian, but I couldn't get to it fast enough on YouTube. You can't imagine my disappointment.
The pieces are there, folks. Build it yourself.
Yeah, like I'm fortunate because I have been to Antigua. Like it was for a couple of cups of coffee, but when I was stationed on Ascension Island, the stop through was Antigua. So I would go to Antigua, stop there for a second, you know, stretch legs, and then jump back and take a bumpy plane ride down to Ascension Island. So I have been to Antigua. You can't go wrong with like the island vibe, right? And, you know, and seeing that and everything. That said, I wasn't totally impressed with the spectacle in the sense that while the island stuff was pretty cool, there was just nothing about it that looked glamorous. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of surprising for 1979. In that, like, if you think of, I don't know, Dr. No, didn't Jamaica look all glamorous and cool and everything? And look, okay.
You know, in those Bond movies, though, they like go out on the set and they like shoo off all the fat Americans. Buffet's open. Go on in there.
I was just expecting a little bit more as far as, I mean, it wasn't bad or anything. I'm just saying that, like, I thought that there was more that they could have done since you had all of these nice island venues that they were on, and to make it look a little bit more glamorous. And since we were in like the houses of like super bad guys, like the houses didn't even look that luxurious either. They just kind of looked like big shanties almost. So, I mean, it could have been a budget thing, maybe not. I'm not sure, but like something about like the overall spectacle didn't quite like clear a huge hurdle for me. I don't know. Maybe they just spent money on Sophia Loren looking beautiful. Money well spent. Money well spent. Don't get me wrong, but yeah.
That's a 70s film, though, right? Jason and I always talk about how it's like the gritty years of filmmaking. Like it just doesn't pop for some reason.
Yeah. Dylan brings up a good point, though, too, because I did get the feel they were trying to follow some sort of Fleming formula. And that's one thing. When you get in a Bond picture, they really make that all the exotic, beautiful elements of wherever he is part of that film. And that's a good point, Delvin. I don't think that they quite hit the bullseye on that with this film. All right, Jared, I'm going to pass it back to you, and we'll go and talk a little bit about the spectacle for Black Dynamite.
Well, the spectacle of it is kind of ironically 70s, just like Firepower, because that's the vibe they were going for, the period piece look. And I think for the vast majority of it, they pulled it off. Sometimes they're in sets that, you know, are very basic, but that's part of the gag, you know, that you have these sets that are very commonplace that you would see in those kind of blaxploitation films or the kung fu films of the era. So yeah, it's almost like they had the same spectacle. I liked the soundtrack to Firepower a little more, but Black Dynamite, of course, had a very 70s funk sound. You could tell they were very inspired by, like we covered on Saturday Matinee Theater, Superfly. And when we covered that film on Saturday Matinee Theater, we talked about how that was one of those few movies where, like, I think the soundtrack sold better than the movie did.
Correct.
Like, because like the main theme was just awesome, right? I totally heard the vibes of that theme in there. So it was absolute success on every level. So that, like I said, they're almost exactly the same, except one of them requires a little more effort because it's a little more intentional. So there might be a little gap in my score there.
Interesting. All right, Delvin, what do you think about the spectacle for Black Dynamite?
Well, the thing I want to add is I called it a couple of times, like, because if you're not paying attention there's a guy they used a couple of times to sing some of like, you know, those songs. And like, he was just describing what was going on in the scene. You know, it was like his brother just died and Black Dynamite is feeling sad about it. It's like, yeah, again, it's just, and it was one of those, it's just another thing that like, it amplifies the spectacle of it because, again, it feeds into the whole thing that like they knew that this was a ridiculous movie and it was supposed to be a ridiculous movie. And so rather than like take it super seriously and say, let's say they paid, you know, Curtis Mayfield money to bring in Superfly and pay for that. No, absolutely do something that sounds like Superfly, but it's like this ridiculous lyric that like only goes to the Black Dynamite movie. Like, so yeah, it's interesting because both movies were set in the 70s, but one was shot in the 70s and the other one was shot like 30 plus years later. And so it's almost like you can make it even more 70s, if that makes sense. It's like the same mindset of who do they get to play teenagers? Like 22-year-olds. Well, think about that. A 22-year-old absolutely knows what it's like to be a teenager, even more than a teenager. So like, it's kind of like that same vibe. It's like you can pick and distill like the things that you need from those certain parts and make it kind of even more 70s in a way, if you're being real and authentic about it. And they were in Black Dynamite.
That's a really good point. Really good point. All right. Thank you both. Let's move on with the scores. Jared, what are you giving the spectacle for Firepower?
Firepower gets a 7 for spectacle. A 7.
We're definitely seeing eye to eye on Firepower because that's a match game. I thought it was, the first half is a good kind of thriller chess piece plot, and then you got some decent action there at the second half, and all together came together pretty well. What about Black Dynamite?
Like I said, there'll be a little bit of a bump up there because it's the same kind of spectacle, but Black Dynamite's doing it intentionally, and I give it an 8. Perspective.
Oh, I think that's our first match game for Black Dynamite. That's what I gave it as well. I think, yeah, we were into elite territory for spectacle for all the reasons you and Delvin just laid out there. Great music, funny music, subtle, but very funny.
Lots of wood paneling in almost every part.
That's right.
Did I know you guys? Well, you were partly overseas. Did you ever have that wood paneling in your house? Because I sure as shooting did. So
yeah, I'm certain there's been a house.
I'm sure we did. Yeah, lived in so many places though it's hard to remember. Well, Delvin, you get the last word on this. Who's getting the sniper bullet?
The interesting thing is that before we started, I thought that I was going to pick Firepower, but I talked myself into giving the bullet to Black Dynamite, and it was just mainly because they had the advantage of knowing exactly what period piece that they were going to do, and since they thoroughly honored that period piece, it absolutely just made the spectacle just that much better than Firepower. So I'm going with Black Dynamite.
They cherry picked, but they cherry picked faithfully. That's for sure. All right, Jared, it's in the books. Back to you.
That must mean it's time for round 5.
It's time to die.
Round 5 is best action scene. Better have a good one if you're going to be here at Action Film Face Off. And we're going to go to Jason for him to break down the major action scenes from the films. And we'll pick our favorites and we'll score them. You guys know the drill. Jason, let's start with Firepower in 1979. And how did you break that down? And let me know when we can all settle on the part where he drives the bulldozer in the house and kills a whole bunch of people. Because we all know that's the best one.
Yeah, that's probably the.
But what do you got? What do you got?
I think we're all going there. Okay, so the first one I thought was kind of the house fire, where they set the house on fire and OJ has to run through the flames to try to find clues. I thought that was pretty cool. So I called that one House Fire or Burning Down the House. Just nice. With the song, throw that in there. So the second one was when they actually did the raid and they got into the penthouse and they get, who they thought was the main bad guy out of there. So I called that one Raiding the Penthouse. And that's also, as you recall, when one of them decides to use the N-word and then get shot
Coburn shoots him like 2 seconds after he uses it.
So I called that one, somebody got a DEI lesson the hard way.
I laughed out loud. I was like, oh, wow, that didn't last. Good.
It's more like a DIE lesson, am I right?
Hey-o.
DOA lesson. Yeah. The third one that I picked, it was kind of attached to that one. I split it up, though, because I thought the extraction scene where they're racing to get to the plane, and then there's the big shootout on the plane, and it's where OJ dies, but Coburn gets away with the bad guy. So I called that one, or, oh no, the juice just got squeezed.
No.
And then finally, the one we're all going to pick, Home Invasion, or I called that one Silver-Haired Commando, because I kept hearing, you know, because he comes in on that seaplane and then he like loads up with his bombs.
Oh man, it is a lot like Commando.
It's like, oh, Silver-Haired Commando.
Well, I'm picking that one.
Yeah, me too.
Dolman?
Fine with that.
3 for 3 on him, driving a bulldozer to old dude's house and killing everybody.
Yeah, why you just didn't do that in the beginning? I mean, this movie could have been like an hour long.
All right, let's shift gears to Black Dynamite. Man, there's a good amount of action scenes in this one. How did you narrow that down?
The first one, I thought the first really kind of big one was the pool hall fight, where he fights the Chicago Wind there. And I called that one Ass Whooping Corner Pocket.
Nice. Approved.
So the second one I thought was the Roscoe's fight.
Yeah.
When they get in the shootout there. I called that one Let Me Serve You a Baker's Dozen in Rounds of Lead.
Yeah, I did like that part where he rolled out the dead dude in the donut and he's like shooting behind him. That was good.
And then for the third one, I just kind of did the whole Island of Dr. Wu scene. And I called that one, I wrote this shit before I even came into the room.
That's good, Jason.
I thought you'd appreciate that one. All right. And then the fourth was the White House fight. I called that one, he kicked Tricky Dick in the middle of his oval orifice.
Oval orifice. Got it all. Man, those are all good ones to pick from. Which one's your favorite, Jason?
I think I go with the Island of Dr. Wu fight. I mean, as much as I love the nunchuck fight at the end, by the end of it, I was like, it was getting a little bit ridiculous. Yeah. The Dr. Wu fight was top notch.
Yeah, when the ghost of Abraham Lincoln showed up to help him in the fight with the president. Oh my goodness. Oh, so yeah, you liked Kung Fu Treachery.
Yeah.
And Dylan, what was your favorite action scene?
I mean, the Dr. Wu scene was good too. I like that pool hall scene, just the first one when he first pulls out the nunchucks.
Oh, that was good.
Can you imagine like taking an ass whooping by a nunchuck? I'm not a froggy guy like this at all. If I ever was about to square off against somebody and they reach in their back pocket or their pants and pull out nunchucks, I'm just like, bro, you win.
You win. My bad. I'm clearly underprepared here.
Yeah, I am underprepared in that, I know a little bit about a little bit and you have nunchucks. You win. Bye.
You win.
See you.
I enjoyed them all. I think I'm going to pick the pool hall fight too, just because it had a lot of good kung fu in it. I love the build up where it looks like he's leaving, but he's just putting the close sign and closing up the door.
Oh, that was good.
They were talking some good junk at him, but it's almost like they just went a little bit too far. Like maybe Black Dynamite was thinking about leaving. When they just kept going on, I was like, yeah, you get out of here, you punk. Beep, beep, beep. And your beep, and your mom, and beep, beep. And it was like, closes the gate. Woo.
And Bullhorn gets in on the fight, and like he hits the actor, and the guy's like, "What the hell, man?" And they put a stuntman in there.
Bullhorn obviously was just like he was like Roger Moore fighting.
Yes,
he
was Roger Moore. So we've all picked our favorite scenes. Now all we gotta do is score it. Let's go to Firepower. Everybody loves the bulldozer, kill everybody. That was cool. Get the real Stegman scene. Jason, 1 to 10. What'd you feel about that one?
I'm giving it a 7. We're talking View to a Kill territory, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun too. So I'm also 7, which means we have match gamed every single time in Firepower.
Yeah, I
that
gave
is match game.
I gave it 7s down the board for Firepower.
Apparently, I did too. That is match game 6 for us tonight. Will we make it to 7? Who knows? Black Dynamite. You liked Dr. Wu, the fiendish Dr. Wu.
I love that scene when he does that kind of roundhouse kick on that guy and puts his head through the crate.
Oh, fantastic. And I like the pool hall fight. They're all good. What'd you give your action scene? 1 to 10?
I gave that one an 8. I think we're moving into some elite category with, I know it's comedy, but the kung fu and just the martial arts and the physicality of Michael J. White is just outstanding. He's in peak form here.
And I maintain my policy of being 1 point lower than you. I gave him like all 7s. Like they're all just really solid. And I mean, we know what it's like when Michael J. White cranks it from kung fu comedy to actual martial arts, because we've seen on this podcast, we've done Blood and Bone.
Yes.
Which was incredible. So only thing left to do is go to Delvin and say, which movie did you feel like had better action?
I want to mention 2 things about Black Dynamite. One, just the way that Michael J. White can like do any kick. Usually it's like a roundhouse and just hold that leg out there, just almost like a hesitation. Like, I'm just going to hold it out here just to show you how badass I am with this form and the flexibility. There's that. That's just, I don't think people understand how impressive that is. It is so impressive. And then there was one scene, honorable mention goes to this chick where they were like the ladies were all fighting, and like most of them were just joking around, like doing like kind of kung fu hands. And then this one chick does this like reverse hook kick. Like, oh my God, it was amazing. It's like, it was. I don't know, like who did that? Whoever did that? Like, oh man, I can watch you do that. I will let you kick me like that. Just to be like somebody. I didn't even know where it was coming from, y'all. I was just standing there and she kicked me in the face. Obviously, Black Dynamite, by the way. That's where my boat's going.
I wrote it down.
Sorry.
He's already done the math while you're going on.
Well, that's no problem. But it is the end of round 5.
I'll be back.
All right. Well, you know what that leaves? It's time for the deduction round, the round of the ridiculous, where we can take up to 10 points off for either of the films for anything that we consider a low point of the movie. I think I've dropped a hint on where I'm going with this, but Jared, I'll lay it out to you first. Are you going to take any points off of either film?
I'm not. And ironically enough, I think I know what you're going to do. And I think the universe has balanced it out, because occasionally in this round, I'll do a +1. And I'm giving Firepower a +1 for having one of the greatest movie posters I've ever seen. But I think that's going to lead into what you're about to say.
Man, you're doing like that Joe Biden stuff, like leaving like little executive orders that I'm going to have to countermand.
Do what you got to do here.
As soon as I take office. But before I drop the hammer, I'm going to check in with Delvin. I mean, I know you don't really get a say here, but any grievances that you have that maybe we should consider?
No. Nothing over the top. You know, I've explained any gripes that I've had with Firepower, and I have gushed long enough about Black Dynamite, so I'm good.
You know what, Jason, before you give your -1, that I think has to do with the poster, I almost gave him -1. I didn't like that part where he was heading out to the seaplane, and she was pumping the gas and all that, and like a couple dudes come out, and he just picks them off from the hip with the rifle. I didn't like that.
Yeah, that was a little
Anyway,
yeah.
It's your turn to talk, but I didn't take anything off for it.
Yeah, and as I'm sure everybody knows, truth in advertising, man, that's a big thing for me. When you call the movie Firepower and you have a movie poster that looks as baller as that, I mean,
it's incredible.
You get my heart pumping, and like I said, I'm settling in for an action flick. I'm putting my mind on cruise controls because I don't gotta think about anything. I can just absorb this beautiful violence that's about to wash over me and just have a good old time. And then you lay me out with like freaking a master's class and plot writing, and I've got to pay attention. I don't like that. I don't like that at all, sir. So even though it was a well-written and directed film, truth in advertising, that's the lesson of today, folks. -1, which just got negated by Jared's +1 anyway, but I've had my say.
Hey, and that's what it's all about. So you know what? that's the end of our official rounds. Now, don't you worry if you haven't been keeping up with that math at home, folks. We do that for you here at Action Film Face Off. Looking at the match game, it looks like 6 match games tonight. So if you guessed 6, you win. And looking at the sniper bullets, Delvin gave 4 of his sniper bullets to Black Dynamite and 1 to Firepower. He liked the villainy of Firepower. And looking at the judges' scorecards, the winner of this episode of Action Film Face Off with a score of 82 to 71 is Black Dynamite.
Dynamite, dynamite. All right, well, congratulations to Black Dynamite. Now let's head over to the randomizer and find out what the years are going to be for the next episode. My brother Jared will be pulling a film from
Choose Your Destiny.
1983. And I will bring a film from
Choose Your Destiny.
1981. What will those films be? We'll tease them on social media for those of you who want to watch before listening, and we're thinking of you as always, Dave. Or you can tune in next episode to find out. Until then, I'm Jason Weasel Skull Albrick. You can't really find me on social media these days. I'm kind of quick cold turkey, but you can reach out to my brother here who will give you his social handles. And if you want to get in touch with me, let him know.
That's right. I will broker that. You can find me, Jared Albrick, the Yard Sale Artist, a.k.a. Death Probe, at Yard Sale Artist on X, Facebook, and Instagram. Delvin.
You can find me on Threads at Delvin Ray and Instagram, same, and Blue Sky, DEERAY 1977.
Be sure to check out all the shows under the Longbox Crusade umbrella by subscribing to Longbox Crusade on your finer podcatchers or your sketchier ones, or you can check it out on YouTube. You can go directly to www.longboxcrusade.com and listen there if you want to. If you'd like to send us a question or a comment or anything like that, you can do that by hitting us up on social media at Longbox Crusade on X, Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube, and Blue Sky now. I think Pat made us a Blue Sky account. Also on X, you can go even more directly at AFFO Podcast. We have our own little channel there, but any of those will get you there. The most fun way to do it, if you have thoughts on Firepower or Black Dynamite and you want to hear your voice on the show, dial up your phone to 707-532-5269 and leave us a voicemail, 707-532-LBOX.
I told you to never call me when I'm practicing my Kung Fu.
That's perfect.
I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Until next episode, keep your head down
and your knuckles up.
The intro and outro theme to this show and all of our Action Film Face-Off shows are done by musical genius Joe November. Check out his SoundCloud at JOSEFLIN99. You will not regret it. Dynamite!
No, it's perfectly understandable.
From the moment Delvin used the word essence, I knew it was going to Michael J. White.
That's right.
It's a very clever joke. If you think about it.
Okay.
Gotcha. I think I was just putting it down.
You ain't what I'm priming.
Black magazine. Yeah.
You're right. Sophia Loren is smoking hot, which I think is what you said in there.
It was verbatim.
There's never been a time where she wasn't good looking, man. But anyways,
very, very beautiful woman.
She was a grumpier old man in her 70s, and she still looked great. But anyways,
well, that was another one of my favorite when he's there and he's like trying to get the chemicals all together, and his henchman's like all stand behind him. He's like,
"Hell,
keep an eye out! What the?"
Loved it. You know, when he kidnapped the wrong guy, the fake guy, and he gets him stateside, and then Stegman very craftily sends his guys to go kill that guy. Mm-hmm. So they think it's all wrapped up in a bow. If you remember correctly, the first thing he does is like back up a truck of, I think it's actually grapefruits, smashes into the car, all these grapefruits come out, bad guys come out and shoot him. I would have grabbed a couple of them grapefruits. I was like, man, that's free, delicious produce, right?
I could be jacked if I eat that.
Yeah, right. Plus, I
could look like OJ.
Grapefruit. Anyway, I got to cut all that out. I just I was like, I'd take some grapefruits on my way out if I was with the guys. Anyways, I got to cut all that out.
I do have a bonus in here.
Oh, hey, what's the bonus?
Because I did the 4 scenes in the rhyme scheme in honor of Black Dynamite.
Well, we need outtakes. So what do you do? The bullhorn versions of these scenes.
Okay, so the bullhorn version is for the pool fight. I called that one 8-ball corner pocket. You got a jaw. I'm gonna sock it.
Nice.
Okay, so the Roscoe's fight said, "These guys come to kill me. Don't be silly. I'm just hold on. I'm taking them out. Then I'm gonna have some chili."
Nice. Chili and donuts.
Okay, so the Island of Dr. Wu fight. Time to do some kung fu on Dr. Wu.
Easy enough.
And then 4 White House fight. Challenge to a fight from Tricky Dick. This cat must be sick.
I love it.
And then he starts shooting at me.
You're supposed to let me finish it off.
And Jared, I want you to know that you are not a weirdo.
Jared, you are a weirdo.